When days grow shorter and colder, attention to human needs becomes more urgent. That's the reason for the seasonal reminders about fuel assistance and efforts to help families in poverty. To tell us about those efforts at ABCD is its president and CEO, John Drew. Thank you very much for being with us, John.
Thank you.
John, I want to start with the bigger picture here in Boston, because we've heard some pretty good economic numbers nationwide recently. Boston seems to be a city with a strong economy. So what about poverty in Boston?
Boston, like many large cities and urban areas around the world, in this country, have superheated. The rents, the gentrification, meaning that's a short term for you're bringing in the gentry and pushing out the residents. That's because the rent increases are condo conversions. And that's becoming, plopping in new tenants who are high income. Now, I don't blame anybody for it. They're not, no. And the mayor, people, I guess, are trying their best to come up with some moderate income housing. But there's a tide, and when that tide starts, and people get the notice that your rent increased or your road, then they go to housing court. The problem with housing court for adjudication of tenants' rights is 90% of the tenants have no lawyers, and 10% of the owners have lawyers. So they're getting short. Anybody who doesn't have capital, meaning you're holding on to a house or you've got some money in the bank or some stock or whatever, when you get hit like this, you get wiped out quick. And if you don't have the ability to raise your income enough so you can pay the higher rent or buy the property, then basically you're a victim that could be homeless, that could be displaced. In many cases, we've lost families moving away. This is not just Boston. Boston's way up there. It's superheated.
Well, your figures remind us that almost 1/3 of the children in Boston live in poverty. And speaking of children, what have you noticed in some of these neighborhoods faced with gentrification, like East Boston, for instance?
Well, in East Boston, we had a very, last year, actually, we're probably 3 years into East Boston turning into a place that was blue collar, and a lot of minorities had moved in and settled with Italians and Spanish. Our Head Start program, we went into last year with 30% of the families we had gone, had moved, because their buildings had been transformed into condos. They couldn't afford it, other rent increases. So I don't know where they are, quite frankly. They may still be in doubled up, tripled up, but they're not in our program. So that was a hot indicator. Now we're seeing a lot of people come in marginally. So we're trying our best we can with food, heat, to keep people in their homes, but the rent increases are so substantial, doubled, that if you're not making any more money or you're not having any more income, then you end up paying 70% of your money towards your rent, and you can't pay for anything else. So it's a tough problem when low-income people get caught into this kind of upscale movement that's taking place here and on the West Coast.
Well, for people who are still here, this is still a crunch time when it comes to heating the home. So what can you do for them with your program?
Well, we still have a lot of people who we rely on us to provide heating assistance up to $1,140 at this point for maximum income. And what we do is I'm a little concerned. This cold weather snap, another couple will exhaust benefits that start on November 1st, but okay. We already have 12,000 families. We're going to end up with 20,000 families here, out in Everett, Malden, and Medford, plus some other towns in Boston. So what we have is people who have not benefited by the economy. Their income is not increased. They're still working, or they're elderly, and they're still trying their best to struggle. But you're struggling against economics that if it doesn't change, if we don't have some way of being able to provide direct help for people, build a lot more affordable housing, whatever you need, then we're going to have more and more what we see around this country, which is homelessness. It's an all-time high. Homelessness is homeless or near homeless. So we have a society where you live in a yacht, you live up on the hill with $18 million houses, and now down the hill, get people being pushed out, and it almost kind of reminds me a little bit of the surf days. But this gap is real. the gap between what you have, those who have and those who don't, and the wider it gets, more victims we have, and majority of those are children.
Well, your program for fuel assistance is for people who are at least under a certain level of income.
Right.
Any idea you can give us about what that would come out to?
Well, let's say you got a family of 4. You can get assistance from us, and please do. Family of 4, $71,846. So we go all range, or maybe you go a little higher range and get maybe a little less benefit, but you get access to reduced electricity, you get access to weatherization, you get access to help with other things we can help you with. I have a front door thing where people come in for heat. We make sure, hey, by the way, you got a child that's eligible for Head Start. How about go to the food pantry? Everything we do, I feel, is to take, we're not serving 20,000 households, 100,000. Yeah, we are, one at a time. Every household we have, we want to make sure they get what they can get and help to bring them to the point where they're self-sufficient. And then they can start thinking about not what's going to happen tomorrow with the rent, but maybe I can take a course, or maybe my kid can go to college. So we that's food, that's housing, whatever we can do, or whatever else can do. Because right now, people at the lower incomes, and that's not lower income, that's working, are struggling. They really are struggling. And the kids are taking up student loans, they can't pay back. It's really a tough scene out there. So our business is to try to help as many as we can stay in place and hopefully be able to live some kind of a life that allows you to think about, I can have a future. That's what it's all about.
Well, I got to ask you about one federal program that you don't really administer, but I'm sure you're aware of how it works, and that is what we used to call food stamps.
Yep.
Now we call it the SNAP benefits.
Yep.
President Trump has changed the rules around that and make it more difficult for people to get around work requirements.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the message seems to be the economy is so strong that anybody who can work shouldn't need this.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful economy for people who are rich or well off. I know that. No, I mean, Purdue, his head in the agriculture department, I wonder if they actually talk to each other, because they're going to throw 700,000 people off of food stamps. They're also throwing kids off of school lunches. Okay, you got to work 20 hours a week and then you can get your food stamps. But some people are in areas where they can't get jobs. There's some places that have skills and they need help. The individual, I can argue this all day, but the individual, 18 to 49, who gets help 3 months out of maybe 3 years. So they're going to knock all these people off. But think about it. Where does the money go? Because we do a lot of food stamp applications and referrals. That money goes to the farmers and to the groceries, and then people get it in the form of taking it down their throat. So this is the game they can't shoot straight. At one hand, tariffs on farmers is killing the farmers, so they're giving farmers money to put stuff in their warehouse they can't sell. On the other hand, they're cutting food stamps, billions of dollars that the farmers will not see. I don't see where they come up with this. But bottom line, with this administration, if they can find a way to cut, it will be on the most disadvantaged.
Now, one of the other things, right, and I'm sure you know about poverty administration, is that when somebody's trying to prove that they're working, you got to go through a process, maybe use a computer to do that. What does that mean for somebody who's on the edge one way or the other?
I was there when I was young. You don't have much in the way of resources, and you're trying, whatever you're trying to do in life, and maybe you're trying to take a course, maybe you're trying to find jobs, you don't have access to computers. Maybe you can go down to a center, but you have to come back with a piece of paper from somebody saying, I tried to find a job here today, but it didn't work. And it's a never-ending cycle of trying to prove to somebody that you're worth helping, because you're out there hustling to find a job that you may not be able to find. And maybe you need this, and the bureaucrats, I'm sorry, bureaucrat, I love you, but they say you got a form, it's got to be this way, and by the way, you can't come back for another 2 months. It's a nightmare. But for people to be thrown off is even worse. Particularly, again, I'm really concerned that they are intending to reduce the school lunch program. Excuse me? Kids are not going to be fed. We have a lot of elders in this program. They do get food stamps. But let me tell you, if they're going to continue this way, are they going to cut them? Where does it stop? Where do we say, well, the economy's great, so everybody should be working. I'm a billionaire, cabinet secretary, so what's the matter with these people? What's the matter with these people is they're not billionaires. They weren't born in the right place, whatever it is. And they're sitting there, they're in public housing, they're working 3 jobs to make 1 payroll, and you say, I'm not going to give you the $100 for food stamps because you should be able to feed your own kids.
This has been the news. We're talking with John Drew from ABCD. John, at this time of the year, once again, concerns about getting toys for some children, maybe adopt a family. Explain how this works.
Well, with us, we aggregate toys from various sources. Hopefully we'll get 10,000. What happens is all our because we serve the neighborhoods, so we have people in every neighborhood. So the families sign up. And as we get toys, we have we try our best to see that everybody gets something. Then we have what's called Adopt a Family, which people have found us some years ago. Basically, we connect a family and or a corporation or a small business with one family. The family then, with some urging, come up with a list of things you really would like to have and you can't get. So you give that to the giver. They then decide how much they can give, and then you give it to the people at the holiday sign. And it ranges all over the place, but it's a one-on-one. It's a wonderful way of doing it. We actually have 2 or 3 companies that get together now and adopt a couple of families. So it's sometimes, if you can see who you're giving it to, that works as well as the toys that we'll get to kids who probably may or may not have anything under the tree, if they have a tree.
And we should also mention your winter fund, right, that people can donate to.
Well, our winter fund, we're 5-6 years in, and we'll let everybody know about it. We send out requests to lots of people for cash. We also have people come to us, and I love them. They come in, some of the banks, whatever, financial, and they come in, they've got whole loads of clothes, winter clothes. We don't put a room up. They have blankets we give to the elderly. Then we get cash. Why do we get cash? Because of the same things I've been telling you. Our benefits are nice, but they're not enough in certain cases. A lot of our elderly run out of benefits and then they don't have any more. So if the winter fund comes in, we then add to their benefits with that fund so they can stay warm in the winter. We also use it for housing for people who get displaced. So it has many purposes. The whole idea is to get all of us, collectively all of us, whether you're rich or poor, whatever, through the New England winter, intact. We don't do it for everybody. Not everybody makes it, but a lot do because of the effort. So thank you for that.
I know we have some details posted about the fund, but we should finally remind people if they need fuel assistance, and they shouldn't wait until they're chilled before they make the call. But if they do need to make the call, what's the best number for that in Boston?
Well, you can apply at 617-357-6012. And if you want to donate to that fund, 617-348-6559. I urge anybody watching or anybody has a relative, please, we have a lot of sites in downtown Boston, and please apply. The first application, we gotta get a lot of paperwork. But once you're going through that, the second year, if you haven't had circumcision, we can recertify you. And you can be in as long as you need to be in. So yeah, you'll have to bring in the pay stubs and stuff, but please do it.
All right, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
John Drew from ABCD.